Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. So it's late and I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I was going to record this in the morning, but I thought maybe I'd just sit here and chat with you guys. Somebody actually asked me on Twitter about my perspective on involving my kids in my recovery. And I thought this was a really, really great topic. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so again, I apologize for like being half in bed and chatting, but I could wait till the morning, but I thought since it's on my mind now, let's chat about it. So it was brought to me on Twitter. As I said, I got a message from somebody who said they were interested in my perspective on involving kids in my recovery. Now, before I get to what my thoughts on that are, I want to be really clear on this. I don't think there is a right answer here. I am clearly going to share with you what I do and the way I view it, but that is what works for me and my children. I don't think that there is one right way to do this. I've heard arguments on different sides, and anybody who knows me knows that my suggestion to moms always about anything is that you're the parent. And at the end of the day, your job as a parent is to guide your children in the way that you think is best. It's your job to keep them safe, it's your job to teach them, and you know your children better than anybody else. So, regardless of what anybody else says, these are decisions that a parent needs to make for themselves. So, again, I'm just sharing my own opinion. I would love to hear yours. Once you watch this video and hear what I have to say, let me know if you think it differently. Let me know if anything I said changed your mind. Maybe there's something I didn't bring up. Let's chat about it. So the short answer for me is yes. I do think it's beneficial for my kids to be involved in my recovery. Again, just talking about myself here. So when I first got clean back in 2012, my daughter was 6 and my son was 3, so they were little. I started to bring them to meetings out of necessity. I didn't always have, I was married at the time, and my husband wasn't always available to watch them. So if that was the case and I needed a meeting, I would just bring them because, in my eyes, it's better to bring your kids to a meeting than not go. I'll never forget the very first time. It was a Saturday night. I brought my kids with me to a meeting, and there was a couple of the group was really small at the time. There was maybe like 6 or 7 people who went regularly, and most of them were men. It was a smaller area of Narcotics Anonymous down in southern Maryland, so it was common for it to be very small. So I brought my kids, and I think there was like 3 guys there, older guys, like my parents' age. And I remember being like, "Is it okay that I brought my kids?" And maybe I had been going for about 6 months or something at the time. And some man, one of the men jumped up and he's like, "If a mom needs to bring her kids to a meeting, she brings her kids." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So from that point on, I did not feel uncomfortable bringing my kids to a meeting. And I also now do my best. The one meeting I go to Tuesday and Friday in the middle of the day, we have a mommy and me rehab group that comes a lot of times, and we have a lot of women who are home with their kids, and we're very encouraging about people bringing their children to the meeting because we never want anybody to feel uncomfortable. Some meetings aren't so like that, but anyway, that's a little off topic. But so I started bringing them out of necessity. Now that they're older, my daughter's 13, my son is 10. They come to meetings occasionally, not really that often. Occasionally, like if we have an event where there's food or something, I'll bring them. They're actually coming with me this Saturday night because my parents won't be home. So, actually, I think just my son is because my daughter has a party. But anyway, so I'll bring them. And so here's the thing. The reason I think that it's been beneficial for my kids to be involved in my recovery is because it's really opened up the dialogue about addiction between me and my children. Yes, there was a lot of things in meetings that kids do not need to hear. And I don't think it's fair for people at a meeting to censor themselves just because there's children there. So I think it's important if you do bring kids that you understand that people use bad language and say things that maybe you think are inappropriate for kids to listen to. One of the things that I have done to combat that is when my kids do come for meetings, they're hooked up with headphones and they watch a movie or something. So they're not usually listening anyway. But it has opened up a conversation. And, I did a video, one of my first videos on this channel was how I talk to my kids about addiction. And the way I described it was the fact that my brain works differently than other people. And just because somebody drinks doesn't make them bad, right? Just because someone smokes pot, it doesn't make them bad, right? Some people can do substances here and there, right? Like for a long time, their dad was on pain meds, which was also my drug of choice. So it was hard for me to explain how it was bad for me, but okay for him, right? So the way I've always explained it is that when being an addict, that my brain gets confused with medications, with any substance, and that the same way, like when you have a cold and you take cough medicine, let's say it says take a teaspoon, and you take a teaspoon of that cough medicine, and then you're good, you feel fine. I said, my brain, once I have that teaspoon, my brain will say, that's not enough. You need to take more. And I don't have the ability to make my brain stop. And so I'll take more and more and more until I'm really sick. And so that's kind of how I describe addiction. It's how I describe it to adults who don't understand. Not everybody gets what it's like to be an addict. A lot of times they're like, why don't you just not do it? So the benefit of this is that I've been able to have really, really good conversations with my children about what it means to be an addict, and they're able to ask me questions that a lot of kids wouldn't think to ask. And I can say that my kids, when they've had their drug education in school, they do it in elementary school and middle school. Every time they have this type of topic, my kids are generally more informed, sometimes more informed than their teachers. My daughter came home one day because the book was fine, right? Like the textbook about addiction was fine. But the teacher wrote it out, like wrote questions out. She didn't take them from the book. She took it, like she interpreted it. And one of the questions was something like, it was like blank are bad people or something like that. And like she was supposed to write addicts. My daughter was very upset, and I actually contacted the school and I said, first of all, that's not anywhere true. Addicts are sick people. I said, and the second thing is that how many kids do you think are in that class who have addicted parents? Statistics are what they are. Regardless of how many people talk about it, the chances of somebody, being an addict, I think is like 1 in 4 have a family member who's an addict, right? Or something crazy like that. So in a class of 25 people, chances are there's a handful of them who are living with addicted parents. Not all of them are in recovery. And so my kids have an understanding that this is misinformation. They understand that this is what happens when somebody doesn't know. But can you imagine being a child who has a parent who's actively using, and you get a test question that's like, if your parent uses drugs, they're they're a bad person? How do you process that information? And so by my kids being involved in my recovery, it's given them a safe place to ask questions and really learn. The other thing that now really when they're super involved is when I celebrate clean time. When I celebrated 7 years on November 6th, both my kids that morning, as soon as they woke up, came upstairs, they gave me a big hug, they told me congratulations and that they're so proud of me. And, they asked when I was picking up my key tag and other stuff they're familiar with NA. And, I think that them seeing the work that it takes has been helpful because, look, again, they're going to come across substances. They also know, here's the thing. Kids in general, if you don't live with an addict, right? Kids' experience with things like alcohol is maybe they see their parents have some wine at dinner. Maybe they see, beer during the football game, right? Like normal stuff. So their association of alcohol is that it's a fun thing to do with friends or, just hanging out. My kids they understand that, but they also understand that some people drink alcohol and can't stop. And I think it's been a positive thing for them to see both sides. Vilifying substances is not what I do. because it's just not real. There's nothing wrong with people who can have a beer here and there, or who can smoke pot here and there, or who can take pain pills when their back's sore or something, right? Like there are people who can do that. I'm not one of them. And I make sure my kids understand the distinction because they need to understand that it's like anything else, like moderation, right? Being an addict means that I don't have the ability to do anything like that in moderation. So it's safer for me to stay away from it. So anyway, those are my thoughts kind of on like why I've kept my kids very involved in my recovery. It has changed over time. How they've been involved, how often they come with me to meetings, what they hear me say, has all changed over time. But overall, over the last 7 years, I would say that I've seen more positives come from being open with them about my addiction than negatives. Look, kids pick things up. Kids pick things up we don't want them to pick up, right? Kids see things, they hear things, they know things. And I feel like if we don't explain it to them in some type of way, it can be really scary. And then they're left asking friends or maybe even getting misinformation at school. And I would rather my kids get accurate information from me than misinformation from other people. But again, that is just my opinion on what I do with my kids. I recognize I've heard a lot of people talk about why they don't want their kids to go to meetings or be involved, and I totally think their points are valid. I want to make that really clear. I am in no way saying that my way is the right way. I just think it's the right way for my kids and myself. But let me know, what do you do if you have kids? Do you think, are they involved? Do you tell them, about your addiction, recovery? Like how do you share with them? Let me know. I think this would be a great discussion. And after discussing it here, we can always transfer it over to the Discord also. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, please do. Links are in the description. You can join my Patreon too. I'm going to be recording a new video this weekend for that if you're interested. If you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, it helps in a big way. And yeah, don't be afraid. If you know somebody who may benefit from my videos, like just somebody talking about their experience in recovery, don't be afraid to share them. I have no problem with that. Believe it or not, people ask me if it's okay to share my videos. I guess because I'm personal about stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But yes, I am always okay with that. Reach out to me. I answer every comment, every message. So don't be afraid to reach out. And yeah, I'm really, really interested to hear what you guys think. I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye, everyone.